afternoon, y'all. Hope everything is well with y'all. Of course, this is the Sports Wave Network, and the show is called Sports Corner with the Con Man. I am your host, the Con Man, and today I have a very special guest, my man, Mosaldi Caldwell. Mosaldi, how you doing this afternoon, my brother?
Doing all right, Mike. Doing all right.
I know you are. Folks, for those of you who don't know, Mashadi was probably, well, is one of the best basketball players to ever come out of the South Coast area. And right now, he's one of the best basketball officials in the area. And I'm honored to have him on my show. And we're going to get into some things in a little while. But, Mo, what I like to do is when I have guests on my show, is I like to have them talk about their grind, talk about their experiences. So what I like you to do is if you can take it back a little bit and let me or let the viewers know, how it all started, and let's kick it from there. We're going to talk about the hoop mine. We're going to talk about the NBA, the Final Four. We're going to all do that a little later on. But right now, I want the folks to know a little bit about yourself, and we can kick it from there.
All right. Well, let me see. I started probably playing basketball first time I was probably 9, and I was playing football for the Barristers, and Butch Firmino asked saw how big I was at like 9 years old and was like, "Oh, do you want to play basketball?" And I kind of was like, "Not really, but I'll go play." Right? We didn't have a good team, didn't have a good year, so I was like, "Yeah, basketball. Nope. I'll stay with football, baseball, do that thing." Well, I ended up going to the boys' club at about 10, gonna be 11, and during the summer for the first time. And I happened to play pickup against one of my cousins, who was pretty good for old Rochester. Marky, I don't want to say his nickname, but everybody knew him as Charky. And that was my older cousin. And he was a very good,
Okay.
three sport athlete or whatever. But he was older. So I'm playing him, and Rob Mendes seen me playing my cousin. And I was bigger than him, but I could kind of move. So Rob was like, "How old are you?" I was like, "I'm 10, I'll be 11 in November." He goes, "Do you want to play basketball?" Now, the one year I did play, I remember playing against this Verdian Vets team, and they smoked us, right? And I said, "Well, if I'm going to play, I'm going to play with them because at least I'll be on a good team because I know I
Right.
wasn't good. So I'm like, at least I'll be on a good team so it won't be so bad playing something I really don't like. So I go play Pee Wees for Rob, and I ended up, because I was the biggest guy on the team, I ended up playing a lot. I wasn't much of a factor other than, grabbing rebounds and, making passes. By the end of the year, I could make, maybe 30 points there, something like that. But I got most improved at the banquet. So it was one of those, you work and you get that reward. I liked it, just like any kid. I saw the product of my work early, so I said, "Oh, if I try a little bit, I can get a little something." So I'm like, "All right, I'll do that." So I worked the next year, but I moved up. So I only had played like 2 years in Pee Wees, but it was staggered. So going into seventh grade, I ended up playing with the boys club again, and I was playing with like the older guys. The year ahead of me was like Billy Houtman, Lamont, uh, Kelly Burgo, um, Jamal Magnet, and some of those other guys. So like they had already won like the year before with Aaron Burr and those guys. They had aged out. Were going into high school. So I'm on the team with those guys, and I'm not really playing that much. I didn't really know that much about what I was doing, and we ended up winning because Billy tore it up that year. Billy Ash could just score, you know
Good.
that. So like he was
Folks,
an ace.
man.
Right, especially back then, he was in the newspaper all the time. When you're in the newspaper for, middle school basketball and you're, getting articles, he was doing it.
Right.
We might have had 30 something points. He had 20 of them. So I sat on the bench a lot that year. We won, but it was like, I don't like sitting on the bench. You know what I mean? Like it was like, I got to get better. I got to work. The next year, of course, I was going to play because now I'm one of the older and bigger guys on the team. But I set a goal for myself quietly. I'm like, all right, all these guys are moving up. So like JJ Wedge and Lyle and those guys were moving up to the midgets with us, right? But it was like me, Brandon Tavares at the time was a really good middle school basketball player. Um, Brent Tavares was on the team. Uh, like I said, Lyle, JJ. We had Lenny Ramus might have been maybe not quite yet with us, but that was like our core group. JJ Nunes played with us that year too, I believe. Uh,
Oh,
so that was like our
okay.
core group. But I was older, so I'm like, let me set a goal for myself because the year before I thought I didn't play enough. Like I didn't play enough because I wasn't good enough probably. But in my head, I'm like, I gotta work. I gotta get better. I gotta. So I set a goal. Then I'm like, listen, I'm getting at least all star this next year in midgets. Ended up getting all star. So now I keep seeing if I work a little bit at this basketball, I'm gonna get a little something back from it, and I'm getting better, right? But nobody really seen me working because I didn't really live around anybody. So like when I would go to the court, it was just me in the court. Like it wasn't me at the front or me at Monty's or me, in Potter Street at the park or Common Park. Like I lived on Union Street, so my court was Liberty Skip Street, over there at Hathaway School. So like nobody was really over there. So I was just in there grinding, doing my thing. So the next year going into ninth grade, from I think say November of my eighth grade year, I was about 5'7" and a half. By the end of eighth grade, I was about 6 foot 6'1". So that whole year was like just a growth spurt. So
Mm-hmm.
by the time I got to ninth grade, I was about 6'1". But I was also young. I was only 13 going on 14. So it was kind of like I was tall, but there was still some things that were catching up and it was coming fast. But I think because I didn't play basketball long enough to say like CYO every year, this, that, and the other thing, like I didn't have like a cachet. You know what I'm saying? Like New Bedford's kind of like if you're not doing it from age 8 all the way through till you get to high school, those guys who are just now starting to get better in that eighth, ninth grade, 10th grade, you're kind of you have to fight to go beyond those guys that were perceived ahead of you when maybe they're not
Mm-hmm.
ahead of you anymore. But at the same time, it forced me to grind even more. You want to talk about grind? You know what I mean? Like, so I was like, all right, well, I got to be better than this one, this one, this one, this one. So I got to do this, and this. So I worked on it. Ninth grade, playing freshman basketball was like, what the hell is this? Like actually playing for the boys club at the time, I had more fun playing, boys club basketball than I did playing like ninth grade freshman basketball. You know what I mean? Like it was just, it, I don't know, but I guess I had to do it. So we're practicing against the JV, and I'm causing problems in practice because they can't really do what they need to do sometimes in practice. Because I was now by the time the end of my freshman year, I'm close to like 6'2", 6'3", so and long. You know what I mean? So I was giving some of them guys problems because if you're on the JV, you're on the JV for a reason. You're not on the varsity.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the JV.
Right.
Some guys it was because they were young. Some guys it's because they really. So there was times where I had to be taken out of defensive practice, like out of practice. We're practicing being defensive guys, and I got taken out a lot because they couldn't really run their plays. I'm like, well, I'm not a dummy. Like, like if I know your plays, the other team knows your plays. I'm not just gonna let you pick me. I'm not gonna be a dummy. I'm gonna make it hard for you to pick me. So I would be in that position.
Mm-hmm.
So I started learning how to, get around screens and, knowing it's coming. So now I gotta pick. Am I gonna go below? Am I gonna go over the top? So like I was already doing that naturally without really with minimal teaching of to do that. Just because I wasn't going to get beat up by these guys, I want to make it hard. I'm not letting this guy get the ball. If I know he's got to go over there and go over the screen, I'm going to try to fight over the screen and beat him to the ball. I'm not just going to stand there like a dope, screen me, yeah, go. Like, that it made no sense to me. But it was kind of like, well, no, you got to come, take him out. Can you take him out, Coach C? Can you take him out so that we could, get something accomplished? And I'm like, but don't move me up, like, but I didn't get moved up. Now, at the same time, I was a little, let me see. I've had moments where I boil over, like I play hard, but there's times, sometimes when you try to hold that steam and the heat, and sometimes it boils over. And I
Mm-hmm.
think they, you know, when I was younger, if you really didn't really know me, you might have perceived that I was like this wild, loose cannon, gonna do this. You don't know what he's gonna do. I trust him to be on the floor. He's, uncoachable. He's this, he's that. It's like, but what about some you? I thought you wanted somebody with passion, with competitive fire, like not just gonna
Right.
be passive. You know what I mean? Like I don't, when I play, I don't have a passive nature per se, because I don't think it works for me. It might work for other people, but I knew for me, I couldn't be passive because back then, I was skinny. You know, I was new to the game. I had no history of it. I was learning on the fly. You know what I mean? And I knew that I had to kind of go hard because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have all kind of different skills at first. So I just had to be, active, aggressive, and try to play. You're watching Georgetown Hoyas back then, Hoya Patanoia. I'm just running around like a nut trying
Right.
to, do things. So it it was doing that and then trying to work on my offense as it went. And as I started to learn, I started to realize I was ambidextrous. So that actually helped too. So once I started going, oh, this feels better, more natural to go left than it is to go right, that opened up a whole different thing. So now on top of being bigger and being able to move, I could go either way. And I worked on my dribbling because I always kind of was like, well, anybody can dribble a basketball, even though it was the 80s. And I know, and I know around here in New Bedford, back in the 80s, if you was over 6'2", you wasn't supposed to dribble the basketball. You were supposed to grab
Yep. We're
the
gonna talk about
rebounds,
that.
act like you, some big old monster, like you really was like you was a big guy. You go outside of New England, and you're a two guard or a point guard if you're 6'2", right? But here in New Bedford, if you're 6'2" and can touch the rim, you were playing near the basket
Right.
at that time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was kind of like when I was coming through, it was that shift, and I think me with the aggression, not really being a say big guy like to say Palooka, like Moses Malone, back you down, boom, boom. Like that wasn't my skill set. I wasn't built like that, and so why sit there and bang and try to back somebody down when you're 160 pounds at 6'5"? Like that's foolishness. So I had to be, I was a different kind of big for around here, and I think because of the time and how I came on like so fast that I think I just got kind of lost in the shuffle, and I felt like I was going to get lost in the shuffle because I had already had been away to different camps and had some good response, from me working hard. After my freshman year, I go to PC camp when he was just taking a job to go to New York. But during that week, I got like a most outstanding rebounder in like the high school division. After playing freshman basketball, I go to a camp with this kid from Connecticut, Rhode Island. It's my first time being, kind of
Right.
with people not just in the high basketball camp. And I get a free pair of sneakers for being most outstanding rebounder in the high school division going into my sophomore year. So I'm like, all right, I think I can play a little bit. And these coaches obviously think I can play a little bit. So I come back home and I just keep working, grinding stuff I saw that Patino had. I'm watching Billy Donovan work out. And I always say that this guy was trying to make the pros. He's I think was his first team all Big East or second team his senior year when they made that run to
Mm-hmm.
the Final Four. So I'm watching this guy
Right.
coming back from run, and I see Billy Donovan and Palazzi working out. And I'm sitting there watching. I'm going, if that's how you got to work,
I don't mean to interrupt you. Can you check your vocals? I don't mean to interrupt you. Can you check your vocals? Because it's not coming through that clear. The voice, because it's coming in a little foggy, a little bit.
You got me?
Now we're talking. Go ahead, bro.
All right. Yeah, it was my earbud. It was my earbud. All right. So, like I was saying, it was kind of coming looking like I was going to have a year of JV basketball. And I kind of didn't feel the way, things were going, whether it's right or wrong, that I didn't feel I should be a JV guy. Because to me, knowing how, if you want to go play the next level, coming from New Bedford, there wasn't a lot of guys going and playing like right into college and playing basketball.
Absolutely
I'm going,
not.
so, for me to, it almost looked like, well, now if you don't play as a sophomore, you only have your junior and senior year to really do anything. So I'm like,
Right.
me, it would have been a lost year to play JV. And it looked like that was the way it was headed. But from the summer I had, I knew I really didn't have to do that kind of. And if I was going to do that, it was a decision was made like, well, you're going to go somewhere else where you're maybe at a better place with better guys around you, bigger area, something like that. Now, if you're playing JV in Boston or you're playing JV in a place like Providence where there's multiple high schools, and that means that there's that much more talent or whatever it is,
Right.
that yes, you may have to do that. There's guys 6'7" walking through the building, 6'8" walking through the building or whatever, right? Grown men, seniors, 100, 200 pounds, 6'4s, so that's a different story.
Right.
So we made that gamble and it worked out. I went to Providence but I had knew a couple of guys. I had met a couple of guys at camp. And when I
What
went
school?
out,
What was the name of the school?
Central High,
They had a couple of good guys that came from there. We'll talk about that later. But go
we had
ahead.
more than a couple of guards. We had some forwards. We had some guards, forwards. Yeah, we had no centers, but guards and forwards. We definitely had a few that could play. But so I went there, and realistically going there, because they had just won the state championship, everybody coming back, I really was like, well, I'll go sit and play JV there, maybe with a chance to move up. But at least I know the guys ahead of me are that much better than me, and I'm going to
Right.
get better, right? So I come out there. I didn't know. I knew one guy on the team, and just showed up at the school, like didn't know anybody, whatever. And one day, one of those good guards comes up to me, sees me walking around. At the time, I wore my glasses, and I was like undercover, and he walks up to me. He's like, hey, New York. I'm like, I ain't from New York, man. I'm from New Bedford, man. I ain't from New York. He's like, yeah, whatever. This is Abdullah. He's like, yeah, whatever. He goes, we're working out at the rec at 5:00. If you play ball, you show up over there. We'll see. And he just like sizing me up, like looking at me like, yeah, this goofy, MF. He's just look at this goofy guy, whatever. He's probably terrible, right? So of course I'm nervous, because at the time they had just won the championship. He hit the free throws, to cement the game, and he was already getting buzzed. So people already knew him, so I'm sitting there kind of like, uh-oh, kind of like Flea. Like Flea was on that level play wise. So like when them dudes come up to you and they're like, yeah, show up, they're sizing you up. It's kind of like intimidating. At the same time, you're like, all right, yeah, well, this dude, at least he knew who I was. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I go and I play in this little gym. I mean, the South Side at the time, South Side Rec is such a tiny, it's smaller than the New Bedford Boys Club gym. All right. To put that in perspective. And you got guys 6'7, 6'5, 6'4, right?
Right.
Packed in this little thing with, cinder block walls with glaze and whatever. And Marvin played there, Ricky Santos, guys you want to talk about. All these guys played in that little box. right?
You're talking about Marvin Barnes. Y'all don't know. Go ahead.
Yep, Marvin Barnes, Ricky Santos, another PC guy, right? So you're going and you're playing in this thing, and you're like, this place is tight, and these guys, and and I know, not a lot of guys from New Bedford when we were coming up that was leaping, right?
Nope.
No, not a
Mm-mm.
lot. No.
No.
So here I am, like I said, 6'3", 14, right? Just kind of learning how to play basketball. So I couldn't jump at the time, right? I had a nice finger roll though, but I couldn't jump like these. I'm seeing these dudes in two lines. They're like double pumping backwards, boom. They're like boom, and they're like, yeah, he's a sophomore, and I'm going, he's a sophomore. I'm a sophomore. I can't do that. Like it's like guys trying to catch tip dunks, boom, and I'm like, what the hell I got myself into, right? But then I'm watching, and I started to see some stuff because one thing I got to say though, Providence may have at the time guys that were bigger, more athletic, say on the average, because they had more people, right, across the different schools.
Right.
But New Bedford, at least what I was given coming up from Rob, was way better fundamentals and kind of understanding of the game that these guys didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Like where to be, rotations, you know what I mean? Like help deep, especially when you're trying to come into a situation and get on the floor. At least for me, because I wasn't a guy. I mean, I was starting to be able to shoot then, but I didn't really come up saying like I was this shooter scoring machine because I didn't get that opportunity because I was a kid. I was a rebounding and passing dummy because that's all I could do, right? But at least I knew to be effective, I could do those other things, and I had to make sure I did those other things. So when I'm doing that now with these guys, there's some guys are flying around doing all this, but they didn't know where to be. They didn't know how to, two passes away, they're going to swing that ball. If I stop moving, I can get this steal on the wing, so I kind of was doing that stuff and then being able to pass and different things that different, like Robbie had, him and Mike Jarvis, they had that shoot straight program that a lot of guys might not remember from, the 80s. It was every Saturday we did skills and drills at the boys club. It was like 2 sessions. It'd be like maybe a 10 o'clock session, 11 o'clock, and then we would have our practice afterwards. But it was working on different dribbling skills, ball handling, just stuff that kids need to know how to finger in the middle of the basketball, hand on the side, blah, 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 all that stuff. And for me, trying to learn how, because that's what I do, anything I do, I have to like get into it, like get deep into it and kind of understand why am I doing it? If he's doing that, the next pass has to be there. So I got to start heading that way so I can get that steal. So like I worked on all that stuff and that helped me get on the floor. Because when I thought I wasn't going to be, playing for Central, because they had, Cooley, Abdullah.
Who you said Cooley? What's his name?
Mr. Ed Cooley. Easy Ed. Yeah.
Yeah, folks. Go ahead.
So, and he was a senior and he, played pretty much the same position I would be playing, like the 3, I'm thinking. And we had another guy, Kenrick, who was a high flyer, could score on the wing, was strong. He was a senior. He played 4 years at Central. So they had like 5 seniors in Abdullah. So I'm going, well, I don't really think I'm going to play. And these guys, they got a lot of guys coming back. Well, I had a good day, and the assistant coach was like, New Bedford, you keep playing like that, we'll find a spot for you on the team. I'm like, all right, well, good. I'm good. Then, I'll be on the JV team. That's cool. We go to get our bags when we get called in, and I get a varsity bag, and I'm like, what the hell is this, right? And coach is like, yeah, don't worry about it. And so now I go to practice, and I'm getting worked in like as the 6th man. So I went from like playing freshman basketball to now playing varsity. with a team that just won the state championship. You know, you got a couple of all-staters, you know, this phenom point guard, and then you got my dumb ass out there, like not really, you know, I wanted it, but I didn't know really what it was going to be, you know, because you
Right.
always go, I want to be out there. I want to be, you know, I want to, you know, I used to listen to the radio and listen to the New Bedford Durfee games, and, you know, you hear the crowd, you know, you hear, oh, Jason Baptiste, Friday the 13th game. You know, I remember listening to that on the radio. That's how, unfortunately, I'm lucky to make it, but that's how old I am, right? So now finally I'm in that. And you're like, what the hell am I doing? You know, it's like standing room only. You go from freshman basketball, even JV. Even if you're playing JV, you go in, you know, first half, there's nobody there, right? Second half, towards the end of the game, if you're a guy that's swinging, you don't see the crowd till you come out to the varsity, and then you're not really getting on the floor if you're one of those guys. So I went from being a guy that was playing freshman basketball, where you had two kids' mothers and maybe a father here or there, you know, you had 15 people in the crowd, to now you got 500 and it's standing room only, and you're on a team that's got like all staters, and we gotta, you know, defend the championship, and they're expecting all this. And in a city like Providence, the fans were brutal. Like when they would see you on the street, man, they would, you know, be like, hey Mike, man, you need to stop turning the ball over. You know, why you shooting the ball? You can't shoot. You know you can't shoot, Mike. Like, why are you shooting? You know, and it's like, yeah, I'm just trying to get a soda and a Snickers bar, man. Leave me alone. You know what I mean? I'm 15 years old. Like, what do you, but at the same time, that's what you wanted. You know what I mean? So now you got to kind of work so that you don't hear that anymore. You know, my first couple of games, they're like, "You're turning the ball over too much," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I had like 4 steals." You know what I mean? So yeah, I might have stole it, and then got so excited and turned the ball right back over. You know,
Right.
but by the end of the game, I'd probably be on the plus most of the time on the turnover ratio. But you're 15 years old, you're learning on the fly. You know what I mean? Like it was fun, but it was tough. You know, and but I kept working. You got to keep working. You know, I was seeing little, you know, even that year, first game I had 4 points, couple of layups. Towards the end of the year, though, I was starting to, okay, I can shoot a little bit. I can score against these guys, you know. But I was about 6'4" by the end of the year, you know. So a couple of games I hit double figures as a sophomore, and playoff run, you know, we had a good run. We get to the championship. I had 11 in that game. So I'm like, oh, good. We're good. Next year's going to be great because I'm going to work, and Ab's going to come back, and we're going to win 3 in a row. And it didn't happen. You know what I mean? And my junior year, I had a good year, but, you know, Ab has his own story to tell, but he wasn't allowed to play his senior year. So we went from a team going to back-to-back championships, being undefeated, to the next year now getting everybody was taking their shots. Like that's another thing. Like when you're on top, it's and you got a lot of guys around you, especially when you're young. Like I wasn't the leader of that team by any stretch of the
Right.
imagination, right? So I was riding their coattails and getting away with being like the guy you don't account for. But he's getting 10 here, he's getting a 15, he's getting a 6, you know. But I wasn't the guy you was really worrying about. To now, all of those other guys are gone. And now it's just me, only guy with like real game experience, playing against other teams with seniors, you know what I mean? Like upperclassmen that have been there, teams we beat up, you know, because we went undefeated, we was beating people up. So now the next year, man, I'm taking shots. Like they're taking shots at us. And there I am, 16 years old, first time ever. I never was the leader of my Pee Wee team. I was never the leader of my middle school team. I was never the, you know, freshman team, and sophomore. I wasn't but now all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh, I gotta figure this out, you know. And had a bad regular season. We made it to somehow we got on a run. We played a playing game because in Rhode Island, that's how it goes. You have like the 8-9 playing game. We won that game. We play the quarterfinals, and we were playing a team that they were senior heavy and they were big. They had Cole Swider. A lot of people know Cole Swider. His dad played for Cumberland High School. His dad went about 6'8" in high school, probably 210, 15 pounds. They had another guy on the team that was about 6'6", had an all-state point guard. And here we go, me and a bunch of guys with first-year varsity experience, and we ended up beating them on a three-point shot a freshman hit with about 3.5 seconds to go. So we ended up making a run and got to the championship, and we played Bishop Hendricken, which a lot of people in, the South Coast area know.
Uh-huh.
They got kind of like a system, and if you only got, one guy and a couple of, guys that are trying to figure it out, you're not going to beat that. So they got us, so instead of winning 3 in a row, we got smashed, and I didn't have a good game, but I wasn't ready I wasn't ready to be the guy because I had never been the guy. Like, you don't know how to be the guy until you have to be the guy. You know what I mean? Like, you can't,
Right.
There's no kind of, that's one thing I would say to like young kids. There's no way to know how to be the guy until you have to be the guy. Because even watching somebody be the guy, you still don't know what it's like in here to be the guy,
right.
And it took me that year of like going, what the hell are we doing? Like, we're terrible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're all terrible. Like, but we made that run. And I think that made me feel like, all right, well, I can pull these guys a little bit and we do this and I work hard or whatever, blah, blah, blah. We get better. And that pushed me again. So now going into my senior year, I had a pretty good summer basketball wise, but I was, 16 years old, wild, and not backing down. I had a couple of, like I said, sometimes I boil over, and
Right.
I had a couple of boil over situations in summer basketball that didn't help. So, I had a pretty good senior year. We didn't win, but we got knocked out, I think, the final semifinals again to the Hendricken Hawks. I know a lot of guys that went to Hendricken. I love them guys, but I can't stand the Hendricken Hawks. But I like the guys. Just the rivalry thing, you know what I mean? But
Right.
Senior year, I'm done, right? And because I think of my age, my build at the time, and being a South Coast, either Rhode Island or even the South Coast, they don't really respect the basketball players from this area.
True that. Oh, by the way, your boy chimed in, Mr. Nathan Victor. Shout out to Nathan Victor, who is popping in on our show today. What's going on, Nate? Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, but like I was saying, I don't feel this area like, there's no size. You know what I mean? Like, but as far as wings to points, there's a lot of talent. Always has been a lot of that talent from the 2, 1, 2, 3, not really the 4, unless you play the now, quote unquote, the stretch 4, right? Which is what I kind of ended up playing when I was in Division 1. Was like the precursor of the stretch 4. There was no term for it back then. It was you're a tweener. You know what I mean? Like you're a tweener. Well, what are we gonna do? You're a tweener. But now with them knowing how to use the 3-point line, it's changed for all these guys now 30 years removed. See, like I started shooting the 3 as a sophomore, because where I was allowed to. When I went to Central, I had guys in the paint that were playing. They were big guys. So I didn't have to go in there. My job was to shoot the little jump shot. If Ab passed me the ball and I was lucky enough to be open, was to shoot. Cooley was a shooter. He would shoot. He would post up because he was big and strong compared to most of the guys in high school. Ed was a big kid, right? So all I did was shoot, run around, hack, and shoot layups, right? And then the next year I got to shoot, but I had to handle the ball a little bit more because freshman point guard, junior, first year, other guard. So a lot of times I had to help bring the ball up because I did
Mhm.
that when Ab was tired. I'd bring the ball up, you know. So all these things that I don't think would have happened, definitely wouldn't have happened for me as a Whaler, helped me be able to be that tweener that could actually help any team once I rose up. That hey, our guards can't bring the ball up against Xavier when I'm at New Hampshire. So Mo, go get the ball, bring the ball up, give it to the point guard over half court so we can get into the offense. You know what I mean?
Mo,
It's
I can interject one thing. You keep saying Ab. The viewers probably don't know who he is. Folks, Abdullah was one of the nastiest point guards to ever come out this area. You can go on now.
okay. Yeah. Well, for what if people want to know, they can look him up. He was part of the Friar team that went, I believe, to the Final Eight. Was it the Final Eight with Dickey and those guys? Right.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Dickie Stevens. Yep,
He was with
absolutely.
Dickey and Michael Smith and Robert Phelps and all of that stuff. So, like, yeah, I think he led the nation in assists, if I'm not mistaken, too.
I think he did.
I think
I'm
he
not.
did.
I think he. Bad boy.
It's
Bad boy.
something stupid like maybe it was double digits a game assists too. So but anyway, having him when he would be tired, I brought the ball up. You know, once again, something I wouldn't have probably had the ability to do had I stayed in New Bedford. Even though technically at my size, I only made it to 6'5". If you can't dribble at 6'5", it's tough for you to get a scholarship on any level, kids. You know, whether it's Division
Correct.
2 or Division 1, if you're 6'5" or smaller and you can't put the ball on the floor unless you're jumping and top of the square and beyond and can maybe shoot it a little,
You're gonna be a target. First
you're
hand. You're
not
gonna be
you're not going to be it. You can't get on the floor. If you can't put it on the
right.
floor, you can't, So like I said, a lot of things that you get knocked back, you work on it, you get knocked back, you work on it. I had the bad summer that hurt me, I think, from going to a certain level of school coming right out of high school. So once again, I had to learn. You can't act like you can't be a jackass. You can't let these dudes
Right.
get you because the only way they can get you is to get you to boil over because they can't do nothing. So they got to get you but it took a couple of, you know, it took a couple of those. I mean, I'm being trying to be as honest and as trying to not get too
Appreciate that.
put on, but a couple of those, and the right people are watching. You know,
Right.
it, it- like the one thing I would say to a lot of young guys is, if anybody's watching, if you're and me now is like you said as a referee, I watch some of these kids, and I'm going, dude, like in my head, I don't say it to him because you really can't. But in my head, I'm going, dude, you're like a marginal college player, which means you could probably play Division 3. But if you got a piss poor attitude,
Mm-mm.
you're gonna get
Mm-mm.
that. Like you ain't even gonna get that. Like I was a better than average player that had some issues. I had to prove that I wasn't gonna. So I still had that opportunity. If you're not at least a certain level, like you can't afford to be a jackass. Like especially nowadays, like you just can't afford to be a jackass, you know. And I see so many of these kids, and I just watch them, and I'm going, because you don't know who's watching you. Like
Mhm.
you don't know who's watching you. Like you said, I know Ed. Like we're not close, but I know Ed well enough to know. Like if I had a kid and I go, Ed, you might want, if he doesn't already know, because what he does, he would already know. But it's
Yep.
like you don't know if I go, Ed, I don't know. You involved with this kid? I've had this kid a bunch of times, whether it's AAU or whatever. He's a jackass. Like, you can do that.
Right.
These kids
Right.
don't get it. Like there's people, I don't do it, but there's people that could do that if they have these connections. I know someone who's a coach at a Division II school. I got guys that I've played with that are coaches here, there, that I've played with in different things. They're coaches all over the place, So it's like these kids, like when you act out and you're really not, like you're not that dude, these guys are gonna look at you a certain kind of way. Take it from me. Like I went to camp and I'm going to 5-star and acting a certain kind of way, being wild and being like, yeah, you can't do it, you can't stop me with it. But because of where I was from, it was like, this kid's crazy. Now, if I was from, I mean, I don't know how much, going to these things, but if I was from the D, if I was from the Shy, if I was from the Boogie Down or the Bridge or any of these places, right? I could have acted like that and it's okay.
Yes.
Right? Because it's that city tough or it's the city slick. You know what I mean? But because I was from Providence, Rhode Island, with an M shaved into the back of my head with a high top at 100, at 180 pounds, maybe 175. They're like, who's this guy? Who's this kid? He's crazy. Like, But if anybody else was doing that from anywhere else, it's, oh yeah, he's tough. He's city tough. He's street tough. It's like, because like I said, they don't really have the respect for this area, even kind of to this day. You know what I mean? It's tough. Now with the AAU, it's a little better. Back in my day, we didn't have the AAU, wasn't as prolific in this area as it is now, right? So, and it was, I played against Leo, but it wasn't like I was going to be driving from Providence to play for Leo in Boston. Like I didn't have that kind of connection with that. You know what I mean? To say BABC, for people that don't know, they're a national AAU outfit out of Boston that has turned out, hundreds of division.
I can't believe
it. You can't. I'd have to say at least 100, right? At least 100 kids. At least 100 kids turned out, to Kentucky, to Providence colleges, to the UMasses, to Cleveland States, to South Alabama, like all kind of schools, right? And there's names, I think Turner played for him, might have been, was it Turner that played at Kentucky, played for him?
Two-time NCAA champion, 3. Right. Yep.
Yeah, Turner played for him. My guy Trent, like a lot of guys played for BABC, but that was Boston. This area had nothing unless you played for Buddies, and we're not going to get into the Buddies because that's not that kind of show. We're not going to. That was an outfit that he did give some guys an opportunity in Providence. Some of my guys that I know from Providence also played for that program. So he did give guys an opportunity, Brockton, Fall River, New Bedford, and Providence, but that was it. It was only like those two outfits. So if you really weren't hooked in with them, you weren't going and playing like national tournaments outside of New England. I went a few times. We go to New Haven. There was a tournament at the New Haven Y. We go to that and different things, but it wasn't like it is now where your kids are playing every weekend. It was camps. You had to do camps, and I did well at camp, but I had a couple of meltdowns at camp too, because I was just, I was just a little wild.
Oh, before we go any further, I want to get your idea about this. What's your take on the AAU for the most part? Because my take is it's more of a babysitting. The majority of these kids are not going to even make it anywhere. But in the same token, as you know, when you do the AAU circuit, there's a rating system. They rate you, and that's what they give to the coaches. You know what I'm saying? So what is your take about the AAU?
Right now, there's different like levels or circuits in AAU now. Okay. There's certain tournaments, and like there's this thing called the hoop group, okay, that they travel around. I call it the traveling circus. Not that it's a circus, but it's kind of a circus. Whereas they travel around to different cities every weekend, all up and down, I believe it's like the East Coast. And every weekend, you have pretty good programs playing against each other in different cities every week. Okay. Through that, you'll see some players that you're going to see on TV in another year or two in college. All right. Now, then you have the local circuit, and there's another
Mhm.
one. Basketball has one. There's another, like, those are like higher level tournaments. Then you have the local tournaments that are put on, uh, at different places. And that may be a step down or two step down or three steps down. There's different levels to that too. So yes, in some of that, it's yes, it's babysitting, it's giving, Mary and Johnny something to do as an activity. There is
True
some of
that.
there is some of that and some tournaments that are that. But there is more of a heavy hitter circuit that's out there. Not necessarily do they come this close that often. They might come through one weekend during a season, like a session. It'll be one weekend and there'll be some serious games going on. But then they're gone, and they're to the next city or whatever it is. And then there's
Right.
certain places where now with the officiating where they have camps, like there's a place in Pennsylvania called Spooky Nuke, and they have a lot of heavy hitting tournaments out there. But it's way out in Pennsylvania, in Amish country or something, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, I think it is. And that's where you'll see like the blue chippers, the 5 stars, whatever you want to call them. Like a lot of those kids will be playing down there, you know. But as far as the local tournaments, not so much, not so much. So some of it's babysitting. More so around here, it's more babysitting. Some of them than to say heavy hitting. If a kid's going, well, I'm going to New York, or we got to go down to Jersey, or we're going to Pennsylvania, then they're on that higher, like a higher circuit.
Right. Right.
You know, if they're saying, well, we're only going to Tiverton, and we're playing, maybe Starland, or
Right.
some, sometimes Dana Barrows gets some pretty good high
Mhm.
level games, but all of these places can't have all high level games because there's not that much high level talent, So
Exactly.
but it's a mix. What I see too as a player, and being a high school ref in AAU, knowing the game, being a player all the way through. What I see is it hurts as much as it helps player exposure. I think it hurts player development overall.
Bingo. Bingo.
And
Bingo.
what I mean by that is when all these kids, they have skills and drills coaches, they have AAU coaches, and they have high school coaches. And they might not all be the same person. So
Right.
now if you have one or two of them teaching one thing, and then your high school coach wants you to do another
Exactly.
thing,
Mhm.
this kid's head's going to be all messed up. So, like, if your skills and drills coach is teaching you something, and you got to try to incorporate that into your game. When I was a kid, you went and learned, you worked on your skills on your own. Then you went and played pickup to actually use it, right? Then you get to practice with your real coach, and you already done used it. You know how to use it and get away with it or whatever. So now in practice, you can actually
Right.
implement that, and he's not mad about it. That's how it worked for me. What I see is these kids are going, they learn the skills and drills from the skills coach. They play AAU coach. AAU coach has whatever his program is. So you might not get to use that. Now you go and you play
Right.
for your high school coach who has a different philosophy than your AAU coach who wants you to do different things than all these other two coaches. These kids' heads are like, so they don't really know how to actually implement any of the skills and utilize them to best suit their game in a real game situation because they got too much going on in their head and they haven't had a chance to really,
Mhm.
really sharpen whatever their skill set's going to be productive in a high school game. AAU is one thing, running up and down, and that's a whole different thing. Like sometimes it's teams are just pressing. One team can't even get the ball over half court, so the other team just running and jumping. So
Right.
it's different. when you get into a high school thing, when you got to run sets and there's actual plays got to be run, and you got to, knowing time and situation and different thing like AAU, if there's no shot clock, you don't have to worry about time and situation. Like you don't have to, there's different things that these kids don't know how to do. That's why you see now teams can't hold leads because everybody's trying to score quick, right? So you get a 10-point lead. Mike went down. Mike went down. We done lost Mike. We done lost him. We done lost him. Come on, Mike. Nobody up there, dude. Nobody up there. Mike. Here, go up.
Now I'm on now. Folks, again, sometimes when you do a podcast, you have some, technical difficulties. Hopefully he can get back on. My man, Mosaldi Caldwell. He's a good dude. Had a great high school career as well as his collegiate career. Hopefully we can get some time to talk about his exploits at Division One. He played ball at D1 New Hampshire. He then transferred over to UMass Dartmouth, and his coach Brian Baptiste said he's one of the most aggressive people he's ever coached. So when you hear Mo talk about his aggression, it's there. But you know, what I want to, since I got you on the show right now, I think he might be coming on. You know what I want to talk about real quick while I get you on? You know, like Mo is like one of the up and coming basketball officials. And, you know, Nate, thank you again, Nate. Nate knows. So what we would do is we officiate together at this place called the Burgle Basketball Association. Mo been there about, I don't know, maybe a couple of years. This year will be my 30th year. And, you know, Mo would take me home and we would have the most interesting conversations because Mo is a young man with an old soul. And what I mean by that, I mean, we talk, he can name high school player, I know them. He can talk D3, I know most of them, D2, D1, NBA, and vice versa. So we have that, I guess, that bond, you know, and he's one of the very few people, and I'm not trying to say I'm all that, but he's one of the very few people that can relate to me in my knowledge of the game. Because, folks, I've been following the game since 1967. I'm going to tell you guys a quick story I wanted to tell you. Back in the day, you may or may not know, but I used to love basketball. And I used to love my guy, David Thompson. Y'all know who he is. If you don't, you better find out. So as a young kid, back then, what they used to do, oh, we got Mo back. Mo, you back on?
Yeah. I thought you was down for the count, man. I had to go turn my oven on, man. I had to get my.
I was just talking about how you and I, you know, because you could take me home and how you officiate with me at the Burgle Basketball Association. You're in your second or third year, and this will be year 30th for me. And I was talking about how we can relate because you're a young man with an old soul. You and I kick it. You talk D3, you know I know. D2, you know I know. D1, you know I know, and vice versa. NBA, right. We pick it and talking about how you, again, a young man with an old soul, and you have a history of the game. I mean, you can't mess with me. No, I'm only joking. Because I've been following the game since 1967, so I'm old dirt. But go ahead, back, man. Talk about what you was talking about. This show ain't about you. Again, folks, sorry about the technical difficulties, but Mo and I are back. So go ahead, Mo, do your thing.
Yeah. Like I was saying, you know, the AAU, you know, to be honest, it's great for me because it's money, right? Because, you know, if you're a guy that's in shape and I don't mind, you know, I spent 80% of my life in the gym playing basketball one way or another, right? So if you don't mind being in the gym, why not be in the gym making money, watching basketball? Hopefully you get a good game, right? But now what I'm seeing is you're not getting as many quality games as somebody who really likes the game really wants. Like sometimes like, oh my God. Like, cause you know, some of us that are reffing, we all played in college, like got no eligibility left. Right. So sometimes, you know, when you're watching it, you're going, oh my God, this is bad. Like, this is bad. This is bad basketball. Like, you know, and it makes it for a long day, especially, you know, you got a coach. I did a one game because they needed me to do it. I filled in what they call Metro West, right? And I try not to do Metro West. It's a great opportunity for the teams in either Massachusetts and Rhode Island to play travel basketball, right? At a young age, you're getting to go play in different towns against different kids, right? In theory, it's great, right? But to me, and listen, I'm one of the most competitive people that there is, right? But to me, as I've gone through my, you know, road to being a college athlete and what have you, I don't think at a certain age should kids really be playing this travel basketball, because as soon as you put a town name, right, across someone's baby's chest, right, Now you represent your town and all whatever it is, going and playing this other town that you like the high schools might have beef and have had beef for however long. You're 10 years old. You ain't got nothing to do with the town rivalry and all this other stuff. But the parents still hold on to some of that stuff.
I was just going to go there, but go ahead.
So it filters into the kids and it puts unnecessary pressure on they got third grade and fourth grade basketball that's travel now. So like I'm going, these kids, yes. So I've had to say at games going, listen, man, what are you expecting to see at a third grade basketball game? Like some of these kids, this is their first time playing basketball, any kind of organized with rules. And then like parents acting crazy, I go, yeah, acting crazy. I said, these kids just started going to the bathroom unsupervised. Like, what do you want them to look like playing basketball? Like the basketball is the toughest game to really like. Hockey might be up there because you're on ice and skates, right? And the skills you need. But basketball, you need a lot of different skills to be good at it. Like, yeah, anybody can go out and play. But to be good at basketball, you need to be able to run. You need to be able to jump. You need to be able to think, right? You need to be able to catch without moving your feet, right? There's so much going on that you have to do physically in basketball that I don't think people realize how long and how much drilling and dexterity and agility stuff you have to do to be good at basketball.
And one thing I want to add to that, Mo, is from my personal experience, as a player and you want to develop your skills, what you try to do is minimize your deficiencies. For example, if you can't go left, damn well he can't go left. We're going to find out. So, coaches, they pinpoint what you can't do. So what you try to do is minimize your deficiencies to make you a better ball player. And it's like you said, it's got to be drilled. You got to work your ass off. And you know what I mean? And it's tough. You got to be dedicated. You got to be focused. If you ain't in it to win it, it's going to be tough.
And you're not going to get better. And like sometimes like, the parents, they, like I said, they put way too much into what they think these kids are supposed to be actually doing. And it's like I said, it's an unreal expectation put on these kids. Because listen, there's a chart that was out a few years ago, right? Where you have all the different amounts of kids that play certain sports in the country, right? Mm-hmm. And it has a listing and it'll say 2,000 whatever kids that are seniors or whatever in high school playing basketball, football, different sports, right? Yeah. The percentages of them as regards to how many kids are in the school, right? And then it's like how many kids are playing in college, whether it's Division III, Division II, Division I. The percentages drop down to like 5 to 4 to 3 to like. So any of these kids playing any level in college, whether it's Division III or above, you're only like in the top 4 to 5% of athletes in the country that are playing sports. Right. So you have to almost be like really full of yourself as a parent, right? To think that your little Susie, your little Johnny, or whatever is going to be one of them. Maybe, right? But you have to be real. When those numbers look like that, like you have to be real and like honest and go, you see what's on TV, like the kids that are playing in college and the kids that, that get lucky enough to play in the NBA, TNT, or whatever it is, right? You see that. Now, you got to be honest with what you see out of your kid and then go from there. But I think a lot of parents have a tough time saying, my kid's not that good.
Right. Now, I'm going to interrupt you on that because, I've repped a long time. And I don't know about you, I think the parents play a different game than I do. I don't know what the hell they're watching, and I'm gonna keep it real. Most of them get stuck. I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna keep it 100. But
Well,
the
all right.
parents don't think that.
I
And,
try
and,
not.
and you can't say that. I can
I
say
know.
on this show, I ain't gonna say it. But what I'm
I'm
saying
just
is,
saying. I try even. I wouldn't ever say that because here's a story for you, right? When I'm playing freshman well, I'm a freshman at college, right? And I went to where I went to because I wanted to play.
right,
I had other opportunities, and whatever happened, I ended up going where I went. I
right,
had opportunity to play. I'm going, oh, this guy, he's an Al McGuire disciple, played for national championship, yada yada. Like I could learn something from this dude. And I did. In the 1 year he was there, I learned a lot from his approach to the game. And that's Jim Boylan that played at
right.
Marquette. He's
Exactly.
been, NBA assistant coach every year since he left where I left UNH, right? Um, so I went there and I knew I could play because you go to practice when you get recruited, and I saw practice and I'm going, oh, I can get on the floor. Like I was playing in prep. I was at Brewster Academy, which now is, a lot of people know of Brewster now. I was like in the first group that played at the time, the top level of the New England prep school. The year
Right.
before, they had a lot of probably better talent overall the year before. They had they had Big Troy that went to PC. They had Sam
Talking about
Mitchell,
Troy Brown, y'all. Troy Brown,
Troy
you talking
Brown
about?
from Lynn. Yep, from Lynn and PC. And they had a guy named Sam Mitchell who was from Michigan. He was player of the year in Michigan and ended up going there. God rest his soul, Sam. So like they had a couple of guys, a guy that went to Lafayette. They had a guy that played at Fairfield. They had a guy from Brockton who I forgot. You might know the brothers. There's Orlando and Ortez Vandross from
Andros,
Brockton.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ortez was there the year before me. Orlando was there a few years before that. And Tez went to some division. Oh, she's bothering me. So Tez, that's one of my dogs. They're starting to get in the mix. But yeah, Tez was there, and like I said, they had a kid that went to Lafayette. So they probably had better overall talent than the year I went. But we also had, let me see how many scholarship players, Division I players. We had myself, my friend Chris that played at, first he started at Colorado State and finished at North Texas. He was from Texas, though. We had Don Ross, God rest his soul. He played at George Mason. We had another guy that went to University of Buffalo. So we had, and then two guys that were behind us like 2 years that ended up, I think, playing at scholarship schools. One, I think, went to C.W. Post in Long Island, and another guy, I forgot where he went. So, like I said, I had seen some tough players, MCI guys and some other places, guys don't remember. Maine Central Institute was a real big prep school at the time.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good as the head coach and whatever. So, like, I had played against some kind of heavy hitters in prep school. So when I see the guys, not for nothing, when you're at a low D1, there's reasons. You know what I mean? Everybody's there for a different reason. I was there because I was a little crazy. And, some guys are there because they're just not that good, right? Some guys are there because they're friends with somebody on the team and they allowed to walk on. Like, I've seen all kind of stuff, but we were in study hall with this one guy, and he was like 6'9", 230-pound kid, real smart kid, real genuine good human being. I can't always say I've been a good human being. I know who I am, and it was a good human being, right? And that's probably why he wasn't utilizing his 6'9", 230 pounds the way he probably should have, because he's a decent human being, right? But we're in study hall with him, and me and my roommates, we were kind of, we're wild, we're aggressive, right? So this poor guy is sitting with us on the table, and they're asking, and his nickname, to put in perspective, I won't say his real name, but he ain't gonna be watching, but his nickname was Gomer. So for anybody who knows, right? Gomer. So like kind of, big kind of aw shucks goofy kind of dude, right? So we're in study hall with Gomer, and my roommates are like, yo, Gomer, why can't we get nothing out of you? Why can't, we're playing and you're 6'9", you're 230 pounds, and you can't get Mo's leading the team in rebounding. Like, what, we can't get, like, what's going on? Why can't I never, because coming from an inner city situation, you don't see people getting broken down, right?
Right.
We're in study hall, and this dude breaks down and was like tearing up and was like, well, because you, especially at 19 years old, like, you don't have the years of experience and empathy to know, like, or understanding, right? And he's like, well, stuff that comes natural and easy for you guys, I have to think about it.
Right.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, whoa. And he's like, but at the same time, as he's, tearing up, he's like, and I ain't that impressed with what you guys do, because, they what's littler, just shoot jump shots and doing all. He goes, but I'm impressed by what he's doing, because he's playing out of position, and he's just out there playing, and he plays hard. And he's talking about me. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, this dude is like crying because he's actually trying, but he just do some things that stuff that, because we were given certain skill sets that we could do stuff, drop, step, move, spin, back the other way, do stuff. He couldn't do it. And that was the first time in my life as a player and as a human being, kind of, that it really clicked for me that not everybody is kind of the same,
Right.
and you don't know what other guy, like this guy went on to be an engineer. Like, he's not a dummy by any stretch of imagination, but he just couldn't get the gist of basketball. And that's how I'm trying to say, like, but he was 6'9" and 230 pounds and could play, like, he could play, but we're looking at him going, you should be just turning, wheeling and shacking on people. Like, you're 6'9", 230. Like, what are you doing? Big, strong kid. But he couldn't put that into, like, action because something was holding him back, and it wasn't a lack of trying or want to. It was just, he just didn't have it, and I'm there going, holy shit, this dude's crying in the library in study hall because these guys made him cry. I'm like, that kind of, after that, I think how I was as a teammate changed a little bit. And that was about halfway through my freshman year, you know what I mean? Or like the first couple of games. And I kind of was like, whoa, like, because I had never seen that before or had someone say it like that, you know what I mean? And you could see, like, because I had, I'm in practice with this dude. He's a big guy, and I have to practice with the big guys because I have to play the four, because none of these guys can really do what they need to do on this level. So, because I could jump and I wasn't scared of these guys, I could go out there and play. And I didn't care about going, well, I'm not going to play power forward. I'm not playing the four. I don't give a shit. I want to play, right? I want to play. You know what I mean? I want to play the UMasses and the PCs and the BCs and Xavier. I want to be in the game. I don't care what position I got to play. I'm getting on the floor, and I'll figure it out on the way. You know what I mean? And like I said, I think a lot of kids nowadays don't have that either. They're like, well, all I do is this. Well, yeah, that might have been that way for whatever team you used to play for. But every time you move up a level or go to a different team, you have to have the requisite skill set to help that team. And
right, and you can't be go ahead.
you can't be a one-trick pony.
One dimensional. Bingo.
You can't be. You know, and the more tools you have in your bag, you know, guys, kids always, you know, I tell kids all the time, especially because, like I told you, I came up not feeling like I was the guy, right? The coach don't owe you anything. I say this all the time. Every time you make a team, the coach, except AAU, because your parents are paying for it, right? That's the AAU thing. But every team that you have to try out to get on, the coach don't owe you nothing but a uniform.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
You go in there with that mindset, he don't owe you anything going in but a goddamn uniform. Mm-hmm. Everything else from that point forward for you is earned. If you go in there with that mindset every day to practice, because if there's somebody ahead of you, the only way you're going to show the coach that you just is every day you got to come out there and you got to go after that person and make them work and prove every day that they're better than you so you earn your minutes. Then when you get on the floor, you have to do whatever you got to do to stay on the floor. You got to figure out a way to stay on the floor, you know? And I think guys don't have that kind of focus or attitude, but the game is different now too. You know, like there was always room back in the caveman days for the hustle guy, right? Might not get to shoot the Kurt Rambuses, you know, the Rodman type players or Rick Mahorns or, you know, like the guys that were just grinding the hustle guy, AC Greens, right? You know, they're just hustling and make plays. They're really not the most skilled guys, but they're hustle guys. They're going to get that loose ball. They're going to get a steal. They're going to step in and take the charge, right? Or whatever it is. And they're not going to mess the game up. A lot of these young kids, all they want to do is shoot. All they want to do is shoot. All of this, all of that. And there ain't but a couple of kids that can do all of that. Like, you know what I mean? There's a handful of guys that can get away with playing like that. And most likely, because we already talked about the percentages, most likely you ain't one of them. Because if you were one of them, you would have already been right. Like, you know, like just like, you know, just to be real. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of ego do you have to think like you're going to be that guy? You know what I mean? Because Kyrie can do it, and this one can do it, and that one can do it. Don't mean you can do it, but you're going to try your damnedest to do it. You know, and it's like. And then you have those bad AAU games or bad high school games or whatever. And it's like, you know, guys, it's what they're watching, what they're involved in. It's like it's a perfect storm to create bad basketball right now, as far as on the boys' side. Now, conversely, like a lot of people, especially officials that I know that are talking right now, is how much better they like watching the girls' college, the women's college, I should say girls, the women's college game, and as opposed to the boys' college game right now, because they're not doing all of this foolishness and you know, like dancing and doing, like they get to their spots, they're hitting it, like they're crisp, they're clean. And I'm telling you, I saw that early as an official when I first started 10, 12 years ago, doing some of the like high school age girls games in AAU, unless you're doing, like I said, those travel circuit games where it's the best players in the region playing in it. Unless you're doing that tournament, the average high school AAU boys compared to like the girls, the way they play, the way they run their plays, it's just different. You know what I mean? And I'd rather watch and do the girls AAU than the boys all day long on average. Now, when the heavy hitters come through town, yeah, I might want to pick a couple of those games up. But if I had a choice, I'd probably do more of the girls AAU games than do the boys. I think. And
one thing I will say, Mo, is like, folks, as I said before, Mo and I, we do the Burger Basketball League. And this is a testament to you, Mo, because, you know, we do games where the games are blown out. And
Yep.
one thing I can honestly say, because I'll go sit up on the hill. We have a beautiful complex. I'll sit up on the hill and watch the games if it's a forfeit or something. And I watch Mo, and I can honestly say, whether it's a 2 point game or an 80 point game, you always stick to your mechanics. And I cannot say that about too many officials.
Once again, though, it goes back to how I had to be as a player. Like,
Right.
I wasn't, at least when I started playing, I didn't feel as though I was a gifted athlete, right? Because to think you're a gifted athlete, you got to think you're a gifted athlete. You have to have that kind of ego, right? I never had that kind of ego because nothing I had done showed that I was like a super duper leaper. I was a super fast. I was just big and could move, but nothing was saying I was like super athletic, right? Because I wasn't working. Like I didn't have to, like I wasn't a guy that was working out. Like the hell was that at 9, 10 years old? Like I wasn't running around. I wasn't trying to do push-ups. I wasn't, I wasn't playing basketball at the time. I did push-ups for football practice and during football practice, and that was it. Like I wasn't working out. I used to try to jump rope and do boxing drills because I wanted to be a boxer. I didn't want to play basketball. I wanted to be Rocky or Marvin Hagler or somebody like that. My father was like, yeah, you're not going to get punched in the face making a living and getting punched in the face. Like that's not going to happen. So I'm not going to sign any papers for you, to do it. Because you go to the boys club and you watch Bucky's kids, and you're like,
Yeah.
I want to do that. You watch a couple of Rockies and you watch Bucky teaching the guys and you're like, I want to be a boxer, and Andre McCoy, but, and I want to be a boxer. I want to be like them guys. Nope. Don't even worry about it. You're not going to do it. We're not signing. Your mother's not signing it. I'm not signing it. You're not boxing. So, but I always jumped rope. You know what I mean? So I was kind of quick with my feet. I wasn't a goof, and that helped. So I eventually did develop into being a good athlete. But early on, I never thought I was that athletic because, like I said, I wasn't jumping. There was a guy when I was a freshman in high school, Gene Mendes, God rest his soul, right? He ended up being a good track guy, but Gene was like almost flirting with Duncan as a freshman. Just like he wasn't a good basketball player, but he was athletic. He's flying around trying to dunk. And I'm like just trying to still touch the backboard. You know what I mean? At like 6'1". And, growing up behind Trey, seeing Trey jump, and you're going, I can't jump like that guy. Like, And Roger Lewis, for those people who don't know, played at Eastern Michigan, played at a great junior college, Vincennes in Indiana, National Power and JUCO, and he also went to MCI, right? And watching him jump around, going, I can't jump like that guy. Like I knew I couldn't jump like him, So it took a little while, but I also wasn't realizing how much younger I was than all these people either. Like I'm just looking at them and going, well, I see what they can do, and not realizing that I was that much younger than everybody either, because even when I graduated, I was younger than everybody. So now I love, but I'm mad because I want the years back. But now with this reclassification, like, oh my God, if I could reclass, like I'm like as the competitive and the damn, I wish I could have been reclassed, like, because I graduated at 17. So graduating at 17, we had that post-grad year where you could work on your body, get a little bigger. And that was the question a lot of schools had was the question to have a Big East body, right? Well, at the time, no, I didn't have it, but I do, I do now. So it's like it would have gotten there had I been able to reclass once or even twice. Because now after I did my postgraduate year, I still only turned 19 as a freshman in college, where some of these kids now are turning 19 their second year of their reclassification and going into college turning 20 as a freshman.
Facts. Yeah.
So I look at it and I go, damn, I was playing Division I basketball and was decent player at the same age. These kids are still like technically playing high school basketball. And it's kind of a little crazy, You know, it's great for them and the opportunity, but for me, I'm like, you know, damn, I wish I had that. You know, but
Now, you also played at University of New Hampshire Division One. Matter of fact, I used to see him on TV. But anyway, and then you ended up going to UMass Dartmouth. You guys had a great season. You had a great coach. Just recently obtained. Well, now it's way above that. When I had him on my show, he had his 700 coaching victory. And can you talk a little bit about that? You got about 15 minutes, and I got to hit you with some hard questions. So if you could reflect on your UMass days a little bit and talk about that.
all right. Now it's almost like back then, Division III was like, it was different. Like now, it's almost like, you know, kids are getting recruited to Division III schools, and you know, almost like when I was in school at the time, you knew like that was a fallback. Like if you was really trying to be a player, it was the New England 10 or, you know, Holy Cross, any of these schools. There's BU, Northeastern. There's a lot of schools, Division I schools in New England. So even if you're not getting nationally recruited, you have a good opportunity. There's UMaine, you know, University of Lowell at the time was a good Division II school. You got AIC. Springfield College at the time was a Division II school. You had Assumption. You had Bentley. You had, you know, so you had plenty of scholarship opportunities in New England that, like, when I was in high school, like, I knew, no, I know I'm not going to end up there. Like, you know, not coming right out. Not that it was like I was big time in it or anything, but I wanted more than that. Like, if I'm putting in the work, I want to see if I can do better, right? And when I fell to earth, because sometimes it happens, right? I had already played pickup because I had moved back to New Bedford after like my freshman year at UNH. So I was kind of hanging around in the summer times or whatever and playing against his guys here or there in the fall. And so I knew guys. Like I had already known Stevie Haynes, Division III All-American for them on the Final Four team. I had knew Stefan Pagios, another good player for them. I think Steph was 1 or 2 time Little East Player of the Year. I had knew him from a high school tournament that we played together in from Rhode Island. So I used to go and play with those guys. And, you know, they were okay. You know, Hainsey was good, but we were different kind of players. Like I'm a speed guy, run. You know, Hainsey's very methodical, strong, fundamentally sound. But he was a D1 guy that fell to earth too. So, you know, it was one of those things where, all right, if I'm going to go back to school, why not go there? I knew the guys. Coach Bappert was Hainsey that actually called me. Cooley actually coached there one year. It was funny, not when I was there, but he was assistant coach one year with Hainsey. And Hainsey calls me on my birthday. I'm playing pickup. You were probably there at the boys club on Friday nights. And Hainsey calls me up and is like, "Hey Mo." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Bat found this loophole because you've been out of school, you know, for X amount of time. If you want, all you got to do is register for classes and you're eligible right away. You can play." And I'm like, all right, well, I got technically 2 years of eligibility. I was at UNH for 3, but I only played 2. And I'm like, all right, let me see. I still got this kind of Jones in me. I can still play a little bit. All right, I'll go do this, right? So I went and did it. And I'm telling you, like the first year, like it was night and day. You know what I mean? Even though UNH wasn't like you're not playing for Kentucky or Louisville or right? But I'm still used to riding in a coach bus to games. I'm still used to, you know, a certain level of, like they say, accoutrements. You know, you get the hotel sweats, you get the free sneakers. You know, like you're used to that stuff.
Right.
And I go to UMass Dartmouth, and you know they had their guys and that, you know, had played, and they had their little success in the Little East, and and like it was just like going and playing with it, and I'm going, oh boy, like we ain't in Kansas anymore. Like this. It was like, what do we? Like some of the stuff you see these guys doing, and it's like, what are you guys doing? Like you can't do that, But then I'm just coming in and trying to not hurt anybody's feelings, even though they kind of know. Like it's it's tough when you come in and you're better than everybody. Like, and not saying like trying to be like I'm the man. Like
Right.
they knew and I knew, but at the same time, I couldn't come in acting a certain kind of way because that's not fair to them either. Because, like I said, that lesson I learned with the guy that was crying in study hall,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't come in and just be like, "Yo, shut the fuck up to get back there." Like, or
Right.
now if I'm not in the starting lineup, why am I even lacing it up for this team?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? But like when I first came in, I had to work my way into the lineup. You know what I mean? Like, and I understood that, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of guys probably ego-wise that couldn't, like they say, acquiesce to the situation, right? I understood what it was about because if we're going to win, I can't have this dude quitting because I took his spot.
Right.
And the way I took his spot is going to make him not want to help me when I'm going to need him to help me to win games.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So there's certain things as far as team building that I learned in Division One. And now I got to raise these dudes up to a certain level because they weren't used to it. Because now the year I was there, they had lost a couple of guys that were all Little East. They lost Steph and Aaron Lee, who did a majority, 80% of their scoring, ball handling, everything else. So now I'm coming in and it's a bunch of new jacks kind of that have to handle the ball, handle the scoring, So it was tough, And after that first year, there was some plays made. I don't know if you were doing the radio at the time, but there was some plays made in that Little East tournament the first year I played that I thought we should have won the game against Western Connecticut and went to the tournament. Well, I went to the finals, whatever. And I kind of was like, no, I did it all this year, banging my head against the wall, playing with these guys. I don't really want to play with, I love the guys, but like, I really don't want to play like with them no more, and I wasn't going to go back to play, but Bat was like showing up at the house, like coming to, showing up at the apartment and whatever. And, and I'm like, this dude ain't gonna leave me alone, so I ended up going back and played again. And we ended up the second year went on I think we won 16 straight, at one point. But it's Division III basketball for me was just like kind of just getting it out of my system, and all of the kind of negative things that I saw at a low D1 that goes on that kind of turned me off to college basketball. Division III is more of like you're just playing because you love it again.
Right.
So like I had to find that again. You know what I mean? And I think that helped me find it again because I really wasn't in love with basketball, after what happens at UNH, the stuff that went on behind the scenes, stuff that you hear, stuff that go, so like all that negative stuff that I just didn't want any parts of college basketball, going back and playing Division III with those guys and like kind of pulling everybody together, making a run and getting the best out of guys. Like that was one of the most fun. The second year that I had was one of the most fun seasons I had in all the years I played because it was a bunch of guys that, Ryan Bland was on the team, but, he hadn't really achieved really much of anything yet. Jason Antonio was young, and so he hadn't achieved really anything yet. You had Ricky Taylor, who was like a guy that was always a sub and never really did anything yet. He was a senior with me. So it was like these guys, like Ryan made, I think, either first team or second team All Little East that year.
Mm-hmm.
So like finally, boom, Ryan was All Little East now. So like the wife's home, so the dog's acting crazy. But so it was like a great just run. You know what I mean? So it was a good kind of way to close out, even though we lost on a damn buzzer shot to Tufts. I can't stand it. But it is what the dog's acting crazy because mommy's home. But
Right.
that it was a good time. Playing for BAP was tough because he's old school and hardcore.
Oh, yes.
Some of these, he's tough. He's old school and he knows what he wants and he knows what he expects out of his guys. If you don't toe the line, he made me run the punishment thing that he had to do, like the crabs, because he said I was late to practice. Now, I really wasn't, but it was the first year I was there. I had an issue where I had been pulled over. A cop was going to give me a ticket, but said it was just a citation, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I come in right when practice is starting, and coach is like, you got to run after practice because, we got to make it look like I can punish you like I punish everybody else. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I got it. So I did the punishment, did the thing. I didn't complain about it, but if you're a prima donna coming from, I'm a D1 guy, I'm doing this for this D3 team, they ain't paying my scholarship. What I got to do this for, So it's like I had to do it to fit in because if I don't do it, I think I'm better than everybody else. The teams suffer. You know what I mean? Like you can't be that guy, And like I said, my 2 years overall playing for Coach Bapp was a good time. Like I love Coach Bapp. You know what I mean? It was just the playing, the traveling, sometimes with the girls team and stuff like that wasn't fun. Because I wasn't used to that. You're traveling and they're chit-chatting about this or this, that, the other thing. And it's like you're on the bus, man. We got a game to go to and you're talking about whatever, like I don't want to be on a bus with them. Like, what am I doing? But that was a situation I put myself in,
But one thing I'm going to tell you, I had Coach Bapp on my show, and I had to mention you, and he gave you one of the most, one of the most best compliments of any of the ball players he's had. So that's a testament to you, and you only played for him for 2 years. Right. So he spoke very highly of you. He talked about your, I'll call it assertiveness, your aggression. He said a couple other words, but I think you know what I'm saying.
I watched. I know what he said. I watched the video. I know what he said.
I know you do.
He said I was a tough son of a bitch. Well,
Yes.
It's all right. Well, I get that from. He's not here anymore. My dad, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Grow up, and you're already kind of a little aggressive, right? And you have somebody who, grew up loving Jim Brown and all these old tough guy athletes. And all you hear about is, Mean Joe Greens and, all these kind of guys that, there's a certain line that like, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be cool. But you cross that line with me, like, and when you're already like that naturally and you have somebody in your head telling you that that's kind of how you might need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're somebody who's willing to go there anyway, I like had to learn how to dial it back at times, and that's the one thing I love seeing as a referee, seeing those kids that they're not afraid of contact. They're not afraid to stick their face and maybe catch one, but then you learn, well, I can't go that close because it's going to hurt if I catch one, right? But it's the kids that are afraid to even do that. Those are the hard ones to coach. The ones that you can always dial it back, but it's hard to ramp it up. If a kid don't have like that desire or the fire, to do something, it's hard to pull it out of a kid. It's always easier to rein them in, than it is to push them forward, because you can't push them. You got to kind of pull them. You know what I mean? Yeah, he kind of did, Nate. He kind of did. He kind of did.
He's still watching. That's great, Nate. I'm glad he's still watching.
Yep. But yeah, no, Bat definitely came to the house. You know, and like I said, I still have a good relationship with Bat. A lot of the guys that played for him, he has a lot of Rhode Island guys that
Yes.
feel close. You know, a lot of people know Tyler Kolick. You know, I was lucky enough that I've known Tyler since he was a little kid. His father, Kevin, since I was a kid, since I was a teenager.
Right.
You know, and then because of those guys and the UMass connection, Rob Williams, one of my good friends.
I want to mention him. You already know that.
So, like, you know, there's a lot of UMass Dartmouth connection.
Right.
That I see all the time. Like, I speak to Boat a couple times a week.
Right.
Either I ref with him or we'll play against each other or play with each other. And then Kevin goes to games, so I see him at a lot of high school games, and he comes to watch us play sometimes. You know what I mean? So it's just crazy how life has gone. You know what I mean? Like, I remember seeing Kevin in Sports Illustrated, you know, and I didn't know him at the time, even though I'm living right here in New Bedford. He's at SMU, and they're in Sports Illustrated, him and Valdeck, right? And then next thing you know, I moved to Providence, and I meet him when I'm in Providence. But I'm right here in New Bedford, and I'm going to Butwood Park all the time or whatever, and never ran into him. But then I go to Providence, and I'm in high school, and I get to meet Jamie Benton and Tommy Garrick and those guys who he was friends with and playing with. So I get to play up with these guys. So that's when I met them, you know, when they used to beat me up when I was in high school, and they was like out of college or whatever, you know. And Kevin's always been a good guy, you know, and now his son, you know, is tearing up, you know what I mean? And I got to ref him in high school before I refed him when he was at St. George's too. So I just haven't refed him in college because I'm not good enough, you know, but those guys.
Yeah.
Like I said, basketball, like I say now, like Louis Tion, basketball has been very, very good to me. You know, it hasn't been as good as it's been to some other people, but it hasn't been bad to me either. You know, a lot of great friendships, a lot of great memories, and I'm still lucky enough I still can play. You know, some guys can't, you know, walk or whatever. You know, I can still run around a little bit.
And now, Mo, I got a couple of things. Like I said, we got, you know, a couple of things. Number one, if you didn't, if you weren't so, let's put it this way, aggressive back in the, where do you think you could have landed up? And do you reflect? And do you have any, I don't know, guilt or what? Well, what is on the fact that from what the viewers are listening to, and as well as myself, you had the skills, but you were a little crazy.
I was a little crazy.
Maybe that. We ain't got to go into all the details, bro. We ain't got to go there. You had the talent already, and you know, because you were kind of crazy, that might have limited your possibility. If you weren't that way, but that's what helped you make you a great player that you was. If those things didn't occur, where do you think you could have ended up, or maybe the possibility? A Providence College, maybe? URI? What do you think?
Well, all right. The URI thing, Al Skinner came in, I want to say, my junior year. And that was his first year, I think was my junior year. My senior year, I didn't hear anything from them. But I went to camp, and I was there the same week as Andre Samuel and whatever, who ended up going and being a great player for them. I was teammates at camp with, now he goes by Rick Brunson, but back then he was Eric Brunson, right? Jalen Brunson. So I had a great week at camp. Now, URI gets interested. They see me play against Riverside Church. A lot of people know of that program. I played on a bomb squad. The team that I played on, if we had been a college team, we could have been a competitive college team. It was Travis Best, Anthony Harris, Kurt Bostic that went to Cincinnati, Big Troy Brown that went to PC, Ron Williams that went to Merrimack, St. Andrews alumni, myself, Derek Kellogg, Amherst. Okay, so that team was a bomb squad. Now I play in that game against Riverside Church and have a good game and have like 11 points, scoring against bigs and doing my thing, rebounding, being the Swiss Army knife kind of player that I am, right? After the game, my coach goes, "Hey, the coach from URI wants to talk to you upstairs." And I'm like, "Really? What they do?" So I go talk to this coach, and he's like, "Oh, I'm kind of sorry. We're getting into this with you a little late, but we'd really like to get you in, on talent development, which is a program that Rhode Island has, kind of like Upward Bound has UMass Dartmouth, where if you're in the Upward Bound program, you kind of get in to UMass Dartmouth. Well, at URI, if you're an in-state student and you get into talent development, you do the talent development program and you get school for free. So it wouldn't count as a scholarship my first year.
Right.
And I'm kind of sitting there going, well, you recruited Dre Samuel and some other guys, not saying Dre, I'm better than him or nothing like that, right? Because Dre can play. But you're recruiting all these other guys, and now you want to slide me in the back door. When I've been here for 2 years, I kind of was like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? Yeah, Nate was at the tournament. It was bananas. That tournament was bananas. Like Bobby Tremens was there because Travis was getting recruited by Georgia Tech. It was at Rick. So like the gym was packed. You had college coaches. It was standing room only. It was the craziest experience I had in high school. Dickie Simpkins was in town and he was going to PC at the time. You had a team. He was on a team from DC. You had a team from Virginia. You had us and you had Riverside and like all kind of scholarship players, and I had a good weekend. So I kind of was like, nah, I'm good with the URI thing. I'm already thinking I'm going to prep school. So I'm going to go to prep school and see how it goes. I could have probably played at URI, but I was just kind of like, I've been here for 3 years and now you want to take a look at me like, and slide me in kind of thing. I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to see what's going on somewhere else. Now, what's funny is my coach in high school, when you're not used to having a lot of guys that are getting recruited because of whether either academically or whatever it is, or just not having the kind of players that are attracting attention. Abdul was getting like national attention. He was getting handwritten letters from UCLA and USC and all that for the stuff he was doing. But then I was getting letters and getting attention too. And I never forget this one because remember I said I was teammates with Ricky Brunson at camp.
Right.
I go to the AD's office after school one day, or it might have been during school. I get called to the AD's office, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Coach gets a phone call.
So you're talking about Rick Brunson, who ended up going to Temple.
Yes.
And he has a son. Y'all may know who he is. I think he plays for the Knicks right now, if I'm correct. Who's having a phenomenal year, by the way.
Well, like I said,
go ahead, Bo.
Well, at the time, he wasn't going to Temple yet because he was a year behind me in school. So my coach has a phone call in the office from a recruiter from Temple. And, my coach not really being up on, the recruiting game, he doesn't really know how to sell his guys, right? Like now, these AAU guys now would sell their guys and be, uh-oh. Mike. Again, Mike. Uh-oh. Mike Sting done conked out on him twice.
Huh?
Mike Sting done conked out on him twice.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna be back. He's a nut. How was work?
It was fine, except for one person. I picked one person.
Mm-hmm.
Me now? Okay. Go ahead, Mo.
All right, Mike. What you got going on, man? What's going on with your feed, man?
I don't think it's me. I think it's you.
No,
But
it keeps
sometimes
dropping.
things,
I keep staying on, but it is what it is.
hey, all I can tell you, folks, is sometimes things like this happen. But you know something? Without my producer Key Williams, who without her efforts, I couldn't do this podcast at all. And we have our network, which is going good. So I owe a lot to Key Williams because you know me, Mo. I know barely know on and off. So sometimes it could be the feed, it could be the Wi-Fi, it could be a couple of things. Now you know something? You know we've been kicking it, and I've been kind of cool. But I'm gonna ask you one question, well, two. The first one, and then the second one, I'm gonna hit you hard. The first one is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to relay about anything? Is there anything that, how come Mike didn't ask me that? Or maybe I should have said something. Is there anything that you can reflect on now that you want to bring out? We got about 6 minutes remaining. So if you could do that for me, because then I'm going to hit you with the high one later on. But go ahead.
All right. What I would say is being like now, it's crazy. I never would have thought I'd be like when you're wild and do a little crazy things. I'm an adrenaline junkie. You don't think like you're gonna make it to be a certain age because might hit a wall on a motorcycle and do something wild. You know what I mean? That now I'm like old enough that I can actually reflect and be like, oh, back in my day, is when you really want to do something and you want to be good, even to be marginally good, which I was marginally good. Like I wasn't great to say like, there's great players. I was marginally good, right? To even be marginally good, you have to be blessed with ability, intelligence, and give a damn and want to. Those are like the most important things. Like you got to have give a damn and want to. If you ain't got give a damn and want to, it don't matter how much talent you got, because the guy with the give a damn and want to, if he don't have as much talent, he's gonna be better than you. Because he's gonna be like you said, what's the grind about? He's gonna be the
Right.
one grinding. Like I tell people all the time, I go, when you were in high school, hanging at the beach, going to the mall, I was in the gym all summer. Like I
Right.
wasn't at the beach. Like Providence didn't have a beach. We had public pools, but I
Right.
wasn't going to the beach. Like they had beaches in Warwick and that. I wasn't going to the beach. I wasn't going to the mall. I was in the gym. Now it's Davy Lopes. I was in the gym. I jump in the pool and then I go play ball all night. You know what I mean? Like that was every day in the summer. Like I didn't, yeah, I had girlfriends and I chased the girls a little bit, but I wasn't chasing the beach and stuff. I had stuff I needed to do. I wanted to accomplish a certain set of things. Like I wanted to score 1,000 points. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. And I set little goals and I put the work in to reach them. I think some of these ballers and these athletes nowadays, they say they want to do these things, but it's about sacrifice. Like you have to sacrifice something to make those things happen. You know what I mean? Like even if you work with a skills and drills coach, you still have to go and work on that stuff on your own. Like just
Sure.
because you did it with that, but you know, I don't know because when I see these kids play, I don't know if they're actually doing that. You know what I mean? So it's like you spend all this money and whatever. Like my father used to say, "Oh, I'm spending all this money for you to go to camp. Did you go work out today? You working out? Because you're gonna go out there, you're gonna get busted. You go, you know, and that's all I kind of needed to be like, all right, I gotta get to the gym now. I gotta go because I don't want to get busted because my ego couldn't handle getting, busted somewhere. You know what I mean? And I think, like I said, give a damn and want to, and having the confidence and the will to accomplish what you can accomplish. Because if you put the work in, you can be a decent ball player. You know what I mean?
And but one thing too, Mo, is that you know what they say: if you do the same thing and expect a different outcome, if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're doing it the wrong way and expect a different outcome, it's going to be a little, it's going to be a problem.
Right. 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 But I also when I went to camps, I watched what they did. I just watched the drills. I did what they said to do.
Right.
Sometimes guys want to do their own thing and think they know better. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's like, well, no, because if that's what he's doing, I got to do something close to that to be close to that. You know what I mean?
Now, does anybody you want to give a shout out to? Because one thing again with the network, we're going to be seen all over. And of course, you know me, I post all my shows. So unfortunately, Nate came on, so I'll deal with him when I see him. But anyway, is anybody you want to give a shout out to before I hit you with the bomb question?
Well, just any guys that I ever played with or came across, if they watch this or whatever, say what's up and tell them we playing 50 and over right now on Saturdays. A couple of us will be playing 40s in the summer. So if they want to shake off the rust and do a little something, we still out there running. Some of us, we trying to. Some of us can run. Some of us are limping, but we're still out there trying to do our thing. You know what I
And
mean?
because about the game. And folks, Mo would be like, Mike, you want to come check us out? Of course, I'm there. And it's very competitive. I mean, the games are great. I enjoy going. So, folks, don't get it twisted. They can play. They can still play.
Still play. Yeah, we can't fly around no more, but we still run around. Some guys can still approximate a little bit, but it is what it is.
All right, Mo, it's that time. You're ready. I want you to tell me who is the best player you played with and who is the best player you played against.
The best player I played with.
I bet you.
All right, this is how I'm going to do it. All right. Best player, the way I'm going to do the best player I played with is this. Most talented player I ever played with was Travis Best. Most talented, right? The best, most athletic guy that I ever played with, because you got to label things, because I played with a lot of different kind of guys. Most athletic guy I ever played with was Kurt Bostic.
Yep. Good one.
Okay. To say like freakish athlete. He was the freakish athlete, most freakish athlete I ever played with. The best, big, most polished, and it was a shame that he didn't get to do what he could do offensively in college because of the school he went to in their system scheme kind of thing, was Troy Brown. Like he was big and strong, but a lot of people don't realize Troy had a nice jump hook. He had a nice jump shot. Like he could play offensively, but the way PC was playing back then, they wanted tight ends. They didn't want jump shooters at their big guys. So like those three guys, as far as guys I played with, and then probably the best ball handler though, playmaker was Abdul.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. I already knew that.
Like now best player I played against, kind of the same way. The best player I played against overall was Vinny Baker.
Great choice.
Right? Like, 6'11", could handle the ball, could shoot.
Yep.
Like, he was a couple-time All-Pro. Like, yeah, you'd have to say Vinny Baker was probably the best player that I played against. most athletic player that I played against was probably a guy that he was a McDonald's All-American, and he played for VCU, and his name was Kendrick Warren. Now that's somebody, if you go look up, that's somebody for you, Mike, to go look up YouTube, Kendrick Warren, and just watch his highlights, okay? 6'7", leaper. Like when I say leaper, right? He was the most athletic guy I played against, I would say probably. And then, like as far as guard skills, like two of the guys that, I played against that were probably two of the best ball handling guards I played against in college was Mike Williams from UMass and
Nice.
Howard Isley from Boston College.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you.
Right? So, like I said, I was lucky enough that I could say I played against those guys, played with some of those guys. You know what I mean? So, I was with them. Was I as good? Probably no, but I was on the floor with them. So, it is what it is.
Hey, Mo, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day, for coming on my show. Again, I want to thank you folks for tuning in. I want to thank my producer, Key Williams, again, who's out of Philadelphia. Without her, I couldn't even do this. And I want to thank the Sports Network because they allow me to do and have the platform to do all that I do, which is sports, entertainment. I done had meetings, drug counseling. I done had it all, And I want to thank Mo again for you to come on my show. It's been great. Talk all night. Again, folks, tune in tomorrow because I'm going to have Mike Myers, the CEO of the NBA, which is the Military Basketball Association, who started from scratch. And they made it into being on TV on CBS. He'll be on my show tomorrow at 5 o'clock. He's been on my show before. He's very knowledgeable, and he can talk about, the progression that the NBA has made and the work and effort that it took for him and his staff to get to that level. Again, Mo, I want to thank you for coming on my show. Folks, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I want to thank the Sports and Wave Network. I want to thank my man, I first want to thank Key Williams. And I want to talk about my man, Jake Silver, who had the vision to give me my own brand. So I want to thank, I always try to thank them more every show I got, because without them, I couldn't do a damn thing. So you guys, I thank you for tuning in. See you tomorrow, same time, 5 o'clock live. Mo, again, thank you so very much. And I'll be seeing you soon. And folks, before I end it, my man throws the best cookout in the city. You heard? All right, Mo. Take care. God bless.
All right, Mike. Take it easy.
You got it.